league casts and such like that. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys are enjoying. But now we have loaded on into the game, so would like to welcome once again Vickerman. How's it going? What did you think about the last one?
Hey Blaze, it's going really well actually. paiN did much better than I expected last game. They've struggled in this league, honestly. They've lost quite a few 2-0 series. In fact, I don't know the last time they took a game off of one of these top tier teams, but in game one they came out swinging. They had a good strategy. I was pleasantly surprised by how their players interacted, considering the fact that they are playing with a number of stand-ins. And if this is, as we sort of talked about earlier, an audition for a possible future paiN lineup, I like it a lot. I thought that they had good presence with the supports. Grent had an incredible game. We actually saw Cinderin playing for Fnatic today, and he commented between the two games that he said to his teammates that if I have Ravage up in 20 seconds, their Rubik will have Ravage up in 21 seconds. And that was absolutely true. We had an amazing Rubik game come out from Grent. And just in general, paiN, I think they were within striking distance of taking the game from Fnatic, which is great play from them, obviously. And we'll see what they have in store for this one.
Yeah, like you said, the Rubik Ravage were great. The farm on side out was really impressive as well. So I think individually they played really nicely. It's just when it came down to it, the draft was, they drafted a solid lineup. They drafted something that they knew how to play very well, but it wasn't a draft that was up against Fnatic. They didn't really rise to what Fnatic brought to the table and respond in kind and try to counter it out here. They let Phantom Lancer play his own game. They let the Lone Druid do his own thing, and although they across the board did pretty well, Trixie and Era became just an unstoppable force that they really didn't counteract. So I love playing paiN Gaming's fundamentals. I like what they were able to accomplish last game. I think they should play more responsively, more reactively, and try to bring the fight to Fnatic. So they start off with the Nyx Assassin. Great hero to start off with. It was very effective, at least for the first 10 minutes of the game, which is where you really want to have the most emphasis here. So I think it's going to be solid, whether played as a support or as last game, picked up as a mid. Either way, really great option. But Fnatic going to come back with a Lone Druid and a Bat Rider, two amazing heroes for their team. You do not want to be up against this combo.
That's certainly true. Definitely very strong heroes. I think the nice thing for paiN Gaming is that I do like the Lifestealer ban. Era is very good on Lifestealer. Was one of his strongest heroes. With this, actually, by banning out Wisp and Lifestealer, they ban out Fnatic's two most common sort of carry approaches, which are the CK Era, where they just blow you out, which I think is definitely something paiN Gaming don't want to face. I don't think they have the tactical coordination to actually survive through that. And then they ban out the Lifestealer, which is Era's premier carry. With the Keeper of the Light ban, this sort of takes out the three most common routes that Fnatic beats teams with, which is the Lifestealer, the CK Wisp, and the Phantom Lancer. So smart drafting from paiN Gaming so far. The issue is going to be dealing with this Bat Rider Lone Druid, definitely, because Fnatic can lock you down very effectively with this. And paiN actually come out, they decide to pick up the PL. What do you think about this PL pick?
It seems a little bit off based on the fact that I don't feel he has the foundation to work with here. He's up against a Bat Rider who, once he gets his blink, and Hani will definitely have a good probability of getting that blink up, then he's going to have a lot of issues surviving and dealing with that. The Entangles are available there. The Bear can go Maelstrom. Peel is a great hero, very strong. We saw how effective he could be last game, but in this instance here, he doesn't have the Keeper Light to support him. He doesn't really have that much room to just farm away. I think Fnatic can, especially since this is a second pick, Fnatic can easily respond with specific heroes that they feel will counter him very effectively. Vengeful Spirit, a great start off for that. Even without a Blink Dagger, Venge can just R-click on the Phantom Lancer she knows is real, and unless there's a Doppelwalk coming out, and in the case of a Sentry Ward, you don't even have to worry about that, she's going to stay honed on her target. You click them, and that is going to be the target that you swap a few moments later when you actually get to the position. So with that, it's kind of a great tracking tool to stay on point to bring down Phantom Lancer. Now, her movements are a bit predictable, like Nyx Assassin can carapace her waves or her missiles really well, but in general, I think it's a good way to respond.
Does Carapace work on wave, even though it's HP removal?
I believe it does, but
okay. You'd know better than me, honestly. I'm not 100% sure. I think the Vengeful Spirit is interesting. I wonder if Fnatic is setting up for some sort of aura stack. Whenever you see this VS, especially drafted as early as she is, certainly the swap is good against PL, but it's not amazing. I mean, A, you have to know which PL is the right PL. So that's a pretty big deal. B, you have to be able to actually execute the swap effectively. So I wonder if Fnatic don't have something in their pocket for later. What I do like is that because paiN Gaming are spending all of this second phase bans dealing with direct Phantom Lancer counters, Fnatic do have the room to pick up stuff that's strong with the Vengeful Spirit. Like, for instance, Luna is still an option. They could go for other heroes as well. They could do something like, well, if they actually run the Batrider jungle, they could also do something like a Beastmaster on top of the Vengeful. They have options. We'll see what they actually end up going with. But I did want to talk about paiN Gaming is taking out the Tiny and the Gyro. So the Gyro is what Fnatic used the first time. What they used against Fnatic in the last game. And Tiny, of course, has the ability to sort of counteract the PL illusions just by doing massive cleave from his Ag Scepter. And their final ban, the Jug, I actually like this as well. This is not a direct Phantom Lancer counter, but what it does give is big pushing power with that bear, because the percentage heal from the Juggernaut healing ward on the Spirit Bear, it's like 2 hearts or something. Like, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's very substantial. That's a good point to make. I didn't even think about that interaction, but it's a great hero in general to put pressure on out. Does a little bit of AoE with either their Battle Fury pickup or a Juggernaut spin, and yeah, has a lot of push presence that they don't really have much to counteract right now. Nyx is okay at counter push, but they're mostly relying on that Windrunner's power shot, and from there, that's still an easy cooldown that you can swap out of position and lock her down as well. So paiN Gaming is going to I feel is going to be scrambling to hang on to things this game. If they can get a good foothold, if they can just lock themselves in and play very stably without any upsets, then Phantom Lancer will be able to take late game very nicely against a hero like Lone Druid. But right now, Fnatic is in such an aggressive mindset with the Vengeful, with the Batrider, that paiN Gaming needs something to stabilize, something to deal, in the worst case scenario, to deal with that rush of pressure that's going to be coming out from Fnatic in response to this draft.
Right. And so this is, what do you think about this Windrunner in terms of where she's going to lane? Do you think they'll actually run it as a hard lane or as a support? Because we know paiN loved the Nyx mid. I think they probably will run the Nyx mid. He's not by any means that bad of a matchup against Batrider. He's not favored against Batrider, but he's not really that disfavored either. Like, we've seen teams running Nyx against Bat all the time. So that means no Windrunner mid. It could mean that they run Windrunner support, or they could do hard lane, and I'm just not sure which one would actually be better for them.
I think they're just trying to be flexible right here. I think they could do a little bit of both either way. It depends on their next 2 selections to kind of round out what they're up against and kind of leave that open to a final thing. Grunt picking up the Rubik again will be very nice for this position, but it definitely means that Nyx is going to be a mid, which I think he is a little bit favored. Up against an Int, a predictable damage from the Firefly, really easy to deal with in a 1v1 situation, but Batrider is a great 1v1 hero as well, and as long as he stays active, Hani presumably will still be able to do a lot, and they actually give No-Tail his Chen. So that is going to be another one of those forces to be reckoned with. It's very difficult to deal with. And I almost am curious if they want to go for an aggressive tri-lane with the Chen in the enemy jungle just to screw over that PL hardcore. I mean, they could just wait for the PL to get maybe 2,000 gold and then just start ganking him a lot. But if Fnatic wanted to, Vengeful Spirit, great lane presence, great initiation potential, but the Warlock is going to come out from paiN Gaming and Dragonite in response for Fnatic. They had this planned out
big push.
Immediately. And yeah, there's a lot of push potential with that corrosive green dragon, but I'm really curious about how they're going to lane this from here. I mean, could just go for standard defensive tri-lane and have the blue dragon blow away Phantom Lancer. But, what do you think?
I think Fnatic are going to go safe tri-lane, no-tail, and then Lone Druid solo Batrider, because I think the Lone Druid is not gonna, Rubik Nyx PL, right? Most likely. So that's pretty dangerous. That's something that could theoretically pick off Lone Druid, but if it depends on who we actually see on this Batrider and Lone Druid. Most likely it's gonna be the solo hard Lone Druid.
Should be Warlock solo and Windrunner solo in this situation, but we could see a supportive Windrunner and see PL Windrunner Rubik with the Nyx still in that mid lane. That could be rather promising right now. Mino picking up the Nyx again.
Well, solo hard Warlock is going to have a really hard time. I feel like if I were paiN, I would look to put the Warlock mid, but I guess actually that's not a great matchup against Batrider either. So it is going to be interesting how they're going to land this. They have Pada on Warlock, so this could be support Warlock.
Yeah, exactly.
This is my least favorite kind of Warlock, but it does work.
There's only so many kinds of Warlock, but in this case, not getting any farm, not getting any experience, it's kind of feels limited. It kind of feels like they're going to get a lot out of him later, but it's going to take a while, and there's a lot of potential where he's going to be fighting to leech experience from the Phantom Lancer, which is not something you want to do. Saidao wants to have free reign of his lane, and it comes down, once again, to if they can get some pulls off, they'll be fine and dandy, but Pada is still going to be a little bit limited. Sure, he might get level 6, he might get Golem, but maxing out that Fatal Bonds, or at least getting it to about rank 3, can increase his potential as a hero so much more.
I agree. I honestly, my issue is this. why is Warlock such a good hero now? Or rather, what was Warlock's, even let's talk about pub for a second. This is true also of the pro scene, but it's easier to talk about if we abstract it to pubs. Warlock had a horrible win rate, and then something happens, which we'll talk about in a second, and suddenly Warlock is the winningest hero in pub, higher than Drow, higher than Centaur, higher than PL. What happens is that the bugs on his ultimate get fixed. So then it deals much more damage. It deals more damage when it lands. It deals more damage from the fists. It deals more melee damage. It does more AoE. Just everything more and more and more. And so now that you see Warlock percolate into the pro metagame, people take advantage of that. They get that ultimate quickly, and then they level it up with the Ags and Refresher. And then once you have Ags Refresher, it's rare that you lose. I'm sure Bruno has better statistics than I do in this regard, but I have personally, in games I've watched, never seen a Warlock get Ags Refresher and lose at the professional level. But Ags Refresher is not in the cards for a laning support Warlock. And so if you don't get that ultimate quickly, and if you don't level up the ultimate, teams used to run Warlock as a lane support. It just never worked. Yeah. So what changes about that now?
Exactly. He doesn't have a good disables. He doesn't have good lockdown. So they could try to run a little bit rampant with that top lane and transition things up a little bit. But right now we're in an interesting position. Hani has gone for the jungle. They've sent Lone Druid mid. They've abandoned the top lane. I feel up against a Warlock support that's not necessarily something that you have to do. I mean, Grent picking up again the boots first will allow him to zone nicely for the Phantom Lancer, and it's still a tough lane, but it's not unstoppable. It's something that you could, maybe Firefly into the trees and find a nice little hiding spot to get some experience, or just find an opportunity where Lone Druid can do what he most likely does on that off lane. And in this situation, seeding that lane entirely and going for jungle bat. It's a fast jungle, it's pretty solid, and they're not afraid of the top tier 1 being pushed, but I just don't know if it's really making the most of this laning situation. Either way, one thing I want to comment on is the boots first thing. Don't be afraid. The Windrunner has boots available as well as Windrun. It's able to, despite Cinderen's massive zoning mindset, I mean, he's been going crazy on Windrunner to the point that she's actually only got an 80 experience and she's dropping down to a third of her life. But either way, Windrunner has boots, the Rubik has boots, the Bat Rider has boots. What's up with that? Why do you think pros' mindsets are changing to mobility in this early stage?
So, I think these are still fairly unusual choices that paiN are going for here. Now, part of the reason they're doing that is because until the Dragon Knight has ultimate, Fnatic actually don't have that much chasing capacity on heroes other than the Bat Rider. So paiN, especially if they maybe saw that the Bat Rider was going to go boots first, they want that additional mobility to just be able to get away from the enemy team. And Grent, I think he feels that getting those boots early was a big role in his big plays last game. In game 1 of this series, and which is not untrue. Having the early boots did let him get big steals. So maybe he just feels like, well, that worked, I don't want to change it necessarily. But mainly just to escape this Chen, to escape this VS, a little bit of additional move speed is hardly remiss. And they're actually going for a smoke, but Windrunner is not even near where they are.
Yeah, they were going to go all the way around the tower, but the Observer Ward, the Radiant Observer Ward, is really what's letting the way. However, it's great timing here. The creep wave just hit on the tower, so they're not going to take aggro immediately. Wildling can take up a few hits. They're going to start off with Era tanking it up a bit. There is the Windrun. They are looking for a Magic Missile follow-up. The Dragon Tail to come on through. This is going to be first blood. And it's going to be a quick fire breath to make sure that it's secured on Era, because they want that gold on Era. They have a Bassi now, the Wildling Aura. This is +5 armor on creeps, as well as bonus Vengeance Aura damage, 12% base damage. These creeps are just going to town on this tower, and they can do this for another full creep wave at least. So they're in a great spot. Rank 1 Windrun, not going to be a big difference, and now even popping off that Tornado to force them back even further. They are going for that hardcore push even before the ulti is available, and I think this is going to put a lot of pressure on the board immediately.
Definitely, and with Trixie getting pretty good levels in the mid too, this gives them so much pushing presence. I mean, they're sitting so far up, and the problem is that paiN have no effective response to this. Like, what are you gonna do? Rotate the level 1 Warlock over? Like, what's he? Okay, he's level 2, but rotating him over won't actually do anything. He won't add anything to this anti-push, and consequently, they don't really have a choice except the Windrunner is just going to have to quietly watch as this tower gets devastated.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't a bounty hunter lane. This is something that it's not even a weakness of paiN as far as the Windrunner goes, but you're absolutely right. It's a weakness of their supports and their mobility. Their Rubik could come down, really would only accomplish so much. Same with the
Yeah.
Warlock. Unless they wanted to commit for a try versus try bottom, which of course they don't, they're just going to be kind of screwed over. Now losing the bottom rune, it just feels like this try lane down for Fnatic has worked out so much better than anything that paiN could answer back with. Now they're going for push on the top tower here. They don't have a Basilius. Oh, they do have Basilius on the Phantom Lancer, but breaking this down and spreading out the lane even further so that side out can't farm creep waves as frequently, it almost feels like they're losing more than they gain. Obviously, it's still a lot of gold for them. We talked about how Warlock needs a little bit to get going, but here, even if they take this tower, it's not benefiting them as much as it did Fnatic, and that's a little bit unfortunate for them, especially with that last hit.
Tower. Like it's strategically a good spot to take, and it'll make this PL extremely safe because there can't be any sort of TPs over to punish him if he's farming, say, up here in the lane. But the downside is, I mean, they don't have the levels on Warlock, and honestly, I don't know that Grant is going to have as big of a game this game, just because the steal fodder isn't nearly as filled out. And I meant to mention this earlier, but really, like, what's there to steal on Fnatic? There's plenty of good to decent spells, but there's nothing, like, game-changing. Like, okay, you steal a Chen Hand of God, maybe. Or maybe you get Lasso, but, I mean, you have to walk up to people to lasso them, and you don't have the blink that Batrider's going to have. Like, there's just not as much. I guess he can turn to a dragon, too.
Blue Dragon would be amazing, but it's a long time coming, so...
Yeah.
Red isn't that substantial, green, not so much either, but... Yeah, it's just, like you said, you're not going to get too much out of the Rubik, and I think, Fnatic is going to get more out of that. One thing I'd try to mention was the last hit didn't go onto the tier 1 up top to the Phantom Lancer, just went to the die in general. More gold in technicality, but it's not focused, it's not dense on a target. Rubik taking a lot of damage from the tower hits, but it might be enough to bring down Hani. Yeah, with this Shadow Word, he is going to drop down, and that's a nice kill for them. Batrider is sitting at level 5, so they'll get a lot out of that, but down on bottom, similar things happening. They're trying to bait out the Wind Run, actually already did. That's why the Magic Missile is on cooldown as well, but just not enough to lock. Instead, Mino coming in with Hasted Vendetta, even bottling up. Perfect timing of that rune, perfect usage here as he's going in on to Synderen, going to be able to bring him down very, very quickly. Is there a response? No, Power Shot is going to be able to clean it up, so nice follow through, and paiN does put a second kill on the board.
And that is tier 2 boots for Windrunner as well. I think it is interesting, these approaches. I mean, the fact that Windrunner didn't have stats, I feel like was part of the reason they could zone her out so effectively. So, sure, you have boots, you can kind of get away, but that Venge was able to harass so effectively, partially because the Windrunner had next to no actual stat boosts.
She definitely couldn't stand and fight whatsoever. She kind of had just to be there to pop Windrun whenever she was exchanging, and that's pretty much all she had to work with. But she's doing all right now, sitting at 1,500 plus net worth. It's solid for her, but let's look at how the carries are doing. Era currently sitting 39 last hits. I believe he got the last hit on the tower. I'm not 100% certain, but either way, he is sitting at 430 gold per minute. So that adds up pretty quickly with the treads. Possibly now just going to look for something like a Dominator. It's very, very good for stacking and just for having emphasis. But he doesn't necessarily even need to do that. A No-Tail has that Chen, can just contribute one of his 3 neutrals to making sure that they're always going to have that potential to farm up on those Ancients.
BKB? He already has the Ogre Club. There are a couple options here. He could go BKB. He could also go SNY, but I think it'll probably be a fast BKB or something.
Yeah, I mean, he's not up against that much here. He's up against the Nyx's Burst, the Vorbeck, Telly, and Fade, and then the Windrunner Shackles. I think that's what he's most afraid of, is that Shackle Shot. It's pretty easy from his attack range to find a target to line it up with, and I think that's something that he does have to be a little bit concerned about.
Maybe.
But it's not. It's one way or another. I feel it's a little bit preemptive. Nyx is going in on No-Tail, a lot of damage coming out, but he doesn't have enough mana for Vendetta. So all these creeps are just going to try to turn things around and put damage out. Low roll in the Test of Faith, so he's not threatened in any way, shape, or form. But forcing back the Nyx allows him to put pressure onto mid. Pada in a bad spot. Hani already stacking this up with the Napalm, and now the Lasso to secure this kill very, very easily. He does have Shadow Word, healing a lot, but committing a couple more spells means his death, and this is a transition. Very surprising to paiN Gaming is 5 people coming out of the woodwork and now bringing down this tier 1 tower quickly. Fortification popped, but this corrosive dragon form is easily going to be able to contribute enough damage to finish this off. Again, Vengeance Aura on Chen's neutrals. Big damage.
Not just Chen's neutrals, but also Era, also Trixie. That Vengeance Aura gives them so much 5-man pushing power right now. And paiN Gaming with the level 4 Warlock, the level 4 Rubik, how can they possibly hope to stand against this push? It's a really tough situation.
Yeah. It's kind of just a weakness that's been exploited right now. Mino is pretty much their main presence in these early skirmishes, and he's not been as prevalent as he needs to be. No fault to him. I think Fnatic is just positioning themselves nicely. No-Tail knows when to stand his ground and has been able to avert disaster multiple times over, but we just see this continuously going the way of Fnatic. They have tower kills, they have just equaled out to the kill counter, and now we do see also a Midas up on Trixie's Lone Druid, which is just great, as I mentioned before, to get up to level 11, get big bear form, and of course making sure the Spirit Bear is just going to be demolishing on through things, quite literally.
Yeah. I'm gonna go out on a limb. This is almost certainly wrong, but I want to take the credit if it's right. Let's say that Arrow will actually go as fast S and Y. He won't go the big game.
No, he's going up again. He wants to go late game versus Phantom Lancer. It would be a complete waste. Halberd I could see maybe, but
that fast? Halberd you build like a little bit later.
Yeah, but you can say the same about BKB. Every time you use the charges, you're going to be... Oh, shit, the Scory. Oh, Mino finding it. Just sitting there.
I agree with you, Blaze. There is no reason to build the BKB this early. That's why he's going to go S and Y.
Shut up. All right. You can go for it. It's, like you said, there's a sliver of chance you may be correct. Either way. We do see Grent looking for his spell steal. He's 5.5. He needs to just bump up a little bit further, get to that level 6. He does have kind of Mino roaming around in Viz, trying to protect him out, but good warding from Fnatic allows them to know when he is underneath the rune spawns here, and it means that yeah, they might be susceptible to being ganked from the Vendetta Nyx, but they don't have to worry about him being double damaged or hasted or all these other things that are just that much more difficult. So we do see sentries coming down. They actually do not... They get the D ward after the courier comes out. At least they know it's there, but they're not willing to commit to it yet. That's a little odd.
Pretty good. I do have to say the Diffusal Blade timing from Sideout is going to be pretty good. It looks like he's going to get around 12 minutes. So he just needs the... What's it called? The Robo the Magi to finish that. Yeah. So that'll be a good Diffusal Blade. Diffusal's going to be pretty good in this game, especially if you can get Chen before he actually pops the heal. Chen's heal costs so much mana that you can just burn him down to the point where you can't necessarily cast it. And I mean, Chen has so many other good abilities, like he's got the Test of Faith to bring people back, that if you can burn his mana down, it's going to be very, very good in these fights. Honestly, DK, no slouch either. He needs to be able to breathe fire, he needs to be able to stun, and his mana pool is very small. So that fast Diffusal will be super useful for them, I think.
Yeah. But speaking of getting things really quickly, the support's doing just as well this game as Grant was doing last game as far as finding farm randomly all over the place. Bat right in the jungle, picking up his blink at a great timing. Cinderin and No-Tail both have arcanes. I mean, this gold is out of nowhere, and it's based on the fact that they've taken 2 tier 1s. They've gotten a ton of gold for the team, and as a whole, you can see this massive advantage right now at over 2k, which is pretty immense at only 12 minutes in.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically running a pseudo... Having this mass arcanes is actually amazing when you're running this hard push strat. It's sort of like the EG Knight strat from back in the day, except in this case it's Dragon Knight, Holy Knight, and Bear Knight in the form of the Lone Druid.
Nice, Bear Knight. Oh my gosh, that Shackle heading on Hani. I don't think it's going to be a big impact, but it's a very interesting angle coming on through. Era taking a lot of damage. Hand of God does come out, but here is Mino trying to do some burst. They already have the Sentry Ward down. He is going to be able to finish it off, though, before the Test of Faith comes out. Mino gets that burst. They're trying to burn him down with the Chen Creeps, with the Bear, but instead the Bear's the one to fall. No-Tail shackled up to a tree will drop as well. Nice. Too much damage. Good action from paiN. I love that Sentry Ward that was placed preemptively from Fnatic, but they just got in over their head. I talked about the first shackle that came out on Bat Rider. It didn't accomplish much as far as hurting him or pulling himself in a bad spot, but by overstaying their welcome, by allowing paiN to group up, they didn't even have to commit the Warlock Golem, and they were still able to get quite a few kills.
Right, and what a consequential fight for paiN, because of course that means we do see the level 6 on Warlock finally. Like I said, the sooner they get that ult online, the better shape they'll be. And you see they feel so confident now that they actually have that ultimate that they can drop onto Fnatic, that they're just going to keep pushing right now.
Yeah. Speaking of Warlock skills, what do you think about this rank 2 Enfeeble? Starting off 14%, we do see kind of a team fight, so we do see, there is the Golem coming out. He's dropping that Upheaval, doing a lot of damage across. It's going to be enough to finish off the Lone Druid. Era slowed on down, and now we're seeing what we think of that, with Era no chance to escape at all. He has, rank 2 boots, he has the treads, but that is actually a pretty powerful slow that they only have a couple cooldowns to counteract.
I love the Upheaval, actually. 99% of the time, I think that leveling Upheaval is a horrible idea. This game, because it's 5-man Dota so early, and because you always know where you're fighting, it's either the towers because Fnatic is pushing you, or it's Fnatic's towers because they're pushing you. And I mentioned at the beginning of the game that I thought paiN might have been focusing boots more on their heroes because they think they can kite Fnatic. Upheaval is an amazing tool to let the rest of your team kite. So I actually really, really like it. The only problem is this Warlock is so small that he might just die before he can channel it up.
There is a Shackle landing on the center, and Power Shot will fly as well. A lot of damage from these illusions, and it's enough to bring him down. Just too much. Wow, that was very, very unfortunate for Cinderin, and actually his Magic Missile rank 1 also got stolen up. Hani in a bad spot. Too much damage coming out for him as well, and the Phantom Lancer illusions just destroying things. Oh my gosh, the PL illusions have been set up in both those kills. Power shots, fade bolts, whatever it needs to get them to critical HP, and then just a couple of bops on the head from the PL's illusionary pike is just going to be enough to finish it off. So yeah, that is pretty interesting. Setting up a couple of kills there nicely now with PL at 3-0-3. He's going to be able to follow this up very, very well.
8-2. What did that fight start at? Like 2-2 or
yeah, it was 2-2 at one point. And
I mean, incredible play. I have to say that now Arrow will definitely go that BKB because I think he's seen the. He was definitely thinking SNY, but I think he'll go to BKB now.
Cop out. You know, it could just be a casual Ogre Club. Strength is pretty solid. I mean, get some extra HP, extra damage, base damage amplified from Vengeance Aura. All these different things come into play, but in the end, of course, he's going to build into something, and BKB is definitely the best choice. From what he's looking at, his perspective here. Trixie picking up Magic Wand. Interesting choice since he doesn't really use mana, but it might be good enough to get a quick Rabbit or Battle Cry out when he's been diffused a little bit too hard. Also, of course, it does provide him a little bit of extra durability, and this 5v5 Dota that we've been seeing very, very frequently throughout this game, setting it up so that paiN has been able to take it out. They do have Warlock Golem coming up in 20 seconds, and that's going to be very impactful because, as you said, he's been really, really using his skills effectively in these past fights. Dropping the Golem, following it up with Enfeeble. The Fatal Bonds, which is generally, I think, one of the most overpowered spells in the game, isn't been that much of a factor. They just go for quick focus fire, using the 1 second disable and the many seconds of follow-up through that slow.
I almost would have liked more ranks in Fatal Bonds and maybe just ditching Shadow Word because they had a 3 versus 0 lane and the Shadow Word wasn't going to do that much. This can be killing Trixie though.
Yeah, big pick off there. Nothing really he can do to just respond to that. And that's going to be a 4 versus 1, actually getting the kill on the Windrunner here. So what they're kind of doing is allowing the Phantom Lancer to just farm up in the jungle, find his opportunities here where he's now topping the gold per minute and net worth. And then they're putting pressure out on the other lanes. They're putting some damage into the tier 1 tower on bottom. They're getting the kill on Trixie to shut him down a little bit, and they're just using smokes very effectively to pick off core heroes and delay their farms so that, you know, the Phantom Lancer can compete.
Yeah, and I like the Urn on Rubik as well for the same exact reason. They know they're going to be getting into fights, so even though they don't have a hero that typically... Well, honestly, the Nyx could go Urn, but I do like the Urn, the fact that they built it that early and the fact that they have charges, because it really lets them sustain themselves. What do you think this Nyx is going to do? I really would like to see Blink this time and not Dagon. I think Dagon is even more of a trap this game than it was last game.
Yeah, in this situation he has a lot saved up. Blink Dagger would be incredible because he can really set things up. Oh, actually, so speaking of, dropping the Sentry Ward, looking for side out, but he's out of range now, and they're going to fall back. Instead, the Warlock Golem comes down on 2. Big damage going across. Grant hasn't stolen anything yet. Doesn't feel he needs to. He got a wave of terror, but, you know, they got the kills. They got the 2 that they needed to. They got good transition, good response from paiN. They saw a single Satyr in the jungle about like 25-30 seconds ago, and from there they realized the pressure that was coming out from Fnatic. They responded, and although they committed a big cooldown, picking up those 2 supports without any losses is very, very nice for them.
It's fantastic, and such a big shackle from Don't Be Afraid too. It made sure that the upheaval just had a couple more seconds to take up on them, which lowers you to like basically no movement speed at all. I honestly, really good play from paiN, and they can afford to quote-unquote like waste that Warlock Golem, because as long as they pick off a few Fnatic heroes, Fnatic need all 5 to push. They need their entire complement of heroes to actually make these pushes effective. So they can use every Golem cooldown to just ensure that doesn't happen, and it builds up the inevitability on the PL. I mean, PL, without Coddle, he's not that strong early, but in this case, the fact that this PL is 4-0-4, if he wants Manta, he can have it. If he wants Heart, he can have it pretty freaking soon.
Turning our attention to the Roche Pit, this is really, really awkward for paiN. I'm kind of surprised Fnatic doesn't realize what's going on. They had an Observer Ward in the mid lane. They saw them walk right on through, but it's going to be, I guess, too much. They didn't really think that the Roche would be something they were looking at early, even with the steal of a rank 1 Wave of Terror. They're making it work, reducing his armor, getting the extra burst damage, and using that Shadow Word that was, as we were kind of thinking, maybe a questionable pickup as far as skill points, but in that, allocating it very nicely with the mechanism to keep everybody up and keep fighting on that. And Grent, even with an Urn, they have a lot of gradual heal over time type things, and that allows them to kind of go for a little bit of siege mode themselves.
Absolutely. We do see BKB on Era. This will be pretty good for Fnatic. They do need it. They need to be able to make sure that that Dragon Knight actually, especially against the Nyx Assassin who's been locking him down very effectively, the Dragon Knight will actually be able to just push through that and fight. But he's still level 1 Dragon, and I wonder if they don't actually want to take the Fire Dragon here, because their push has been completely stymied. They might just want the extra AoE. What do you think about what he does at level 11?
Well, I mean, I think he's really just focusing on getting that level 11. Like, he's been so behind on levels. But as far as his selection between those two options, I think Red Dragon would be probably the most beneficial. We do see a top Ani getting just completely picked off, and that's really just good movement from Mino, good action from Grant, responding very, very nicely, and picking up again his Force Staff that he's used so nicely to get good picks here and there. So,
sorry, go ahead.
But as far as the Dragon Knight, he needs to start carrying things up, and the best way to do that is to enhance your damage in a team fight. And, of course, Dragon Knight, with that Red Dragon form, will be able to do just that, put more damage across on everybody, and make big fights happen. But I think they have bigger concerns about everything. Like, their levels in general are rather behind level 10 Dragon Knight when he's their main core, behind a level 12 Phantom Lancer. That distance is going to keep on getting wider and wider. We have an Aegis on side out. He also has a Reaver. A lot of HP to chew through, and that makes him feel very comfortable to go onto this tier 2 up top, and now their Golem is back up. He said it wasn't wasted. Now it's 100% true. They have it back up. They're ready to literally rock and roll, and
nice. Good one.
And from there, that is going to give them the opportunity to take towers left and right. We saw early tower pressure coming from Fnatic, but where's that been the rest of this game? They're very unconfident about their 5-man Dota.
Yeah. I want to praise Mino real quick, and then I want to chide him a little bit. I love the 4/4/1 mana burn. Part of that, the fact that he does have that low cooldown on the mana burn and lower mana cost means that he can sort of spam it out. And that's part of the reason Batrider has been kept down in this game, is just because he can always mana burn. It's so good against Batrider. It's quite good against Chen. It's just an ability that's going to be very, very useful for them. Now, I have to chide him. Dagon, the Blink would have been so good. Like, Blink in there, generate the initiation, especially if you get the Batrider and one other person with the Impale. You could just follow that up with a Shackle, and that's a fight that you've already won. But instead, I just don't know about the Dagon Blaze. Like, as long as you don't actually kill somebody immediately with it, no matter where they are, Fnatic can respond with the Chen ultimate. And then you just have a Dagon sitting around collecting dust. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. Do you have any other opinion on the Dagon?
I think they're just completely relying on Warlock's ultimate to initiate things for them. If the Golem comes down and Fnatic is unfortunately grouped up even slightly, they're going to be stunned out enough time for Mino to jump on in, but I think that Blink just offers way too much utility for them to completely neglect it here. Now, it might give them an opening to try to get a solo kill on Trixie. That would be really nice, but he has a lot of HP to work with here. They're up against that. And, like, not even just jumping into initiate, but also for counter initiation. If Batrider jumps in unexpectedly, if Hani finds openings, as he very commonly does, and gets a quick pull on somebody like the Rubik or the Phantom Lancer, and there's not disables to follow up, that's where you would love to be able to just be 1,200 range closer for a nice little stun, maybe even a Carapace on the Firefly. Just really, really cool play like that. But instead, you know, you got some burst extra magic damage. We'll see if it actually adds up to some kills, but until then, I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I'm going to stop complaining about the Dagon after one more complaint, but when is Dagon good? It's good when you can pick people off, like a very important heroes off very quickly. And the important heroes for Fnatic this time are Dragon Knight and Lone Druid. Neither of those guys are going to die to a Dagon. They're tanky. Puck in the last game, so Hani got Dagon. Oh, never mind, Syndra's going to get picked up. So they might get Chen. This would actually be huge if they defusal.
Yeah, defusal him up. He's too slow, and he's going to be also locked down. So just a little bit didn't have the vision to respond to that. They were able to get a good rotation that I believe they came through this position. They kind of went up and then came right back on through the trees. And with that, they were just barely able to circumnavigate Fnatic's ward. This kind of ward positioning isn't the best when you're trying to control your ancients and your top lane. Those are two very, very separate areas, and you kind of need separate wards for that. And they're kind of paying for it here with 2 extra kills on paiN Gaming's board, but we've seen where they can be kills ahead and still not come out on top. Sure, there was a Phantom Lancer 1 minute round. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Big kill on the Dragon Knight, honestly. Good jump in. And honestly, paiN are really putting the pressure on. I think they're going to use this Aegis while they have it, because they only have 1 minute left. And they could get this tier 3 if they're willing to gambit the Aegis for it. And I think they probably will.
Yeah, going on in.
shackle
He is
again.
actually shackled on through, so they do commit to that lasso, do a quick bit of burst, but he is back up to fight again. There is the golden drop down. Nice upheaval onto Trixie. The flame break doesn't stop it, but the entangle does. Now trying to do a lot of damage, but nobody dropping just yet. Era pops the BKB, dueling it out with Mino, dropping him pretty quickly, but the tower is the focus here. All of paiN Gaming are just doing a lot of damage to this tower. Swap comes on in to try to bring down Don't Be Afraid, but he has Windrun active, still alive. No Tail gonna take a lot of stun, take too much damage, get dropped as well. Double Impale to disengage, and Mino walks away.
Done.
They have accomplished so much, but the entangle finally comes on through. Will it be enough to bring him down, though? Potus will fall with the last right click coming out of Trixie. Nice. Oh, another entangle. Going for more. Can he get it? Oh, double kill for him. Yes.
Wow.
Oh, he's been looking for that for this entire series. But either way, yeah, I think this turned out a little bit better for them than it would have because of those two entangles. If those hadn't occurred, then it would have been completely disastrous for Fnatic. But they did fight through two Phantom Lancers that was inevitably pushing, and although they lost their tier 3, another entangle, they have bounced back a little bit with a couple of support kills. I don't know if it's enough, though they lost so much.
Oh, Hanis really wants to sabotage the paiN if they just overextend, but they don't. Honestly, both teams played pretty well. I feel like the Golem was late. That's my opinion about the last fight. All it hit on was Trixie and his bear, and I feel like early on, Fnatic were actually fairly clumped. You could have landed it on several of them and done much better. And that level 1 Fatal Bonds, honestly, when you're trying to high ground, that's when you want Fatal Bonds to be up vastly higher than that, because if you land that on all the heroes, PL beating on one person is going to percolate to almost the entire team. And instead, when you only have level 1 Fatal Bonds, PL beating on one person is going to do very, very little. I would have liked to see Upheaval remaining at level 2 or 3, and maybe level up that Fatal Bonds a little faster. But he's still going to be able to build up. He's going to get that level 2 Golem eventually. That'll be a big change. He's definitely not going to get Ags anytime soon, since he just has 4 staff. But paiNs are still looking good, and honestly, they did get the tower. Unfortunately, they didn't manage to get the Raxes. You saw, actually... Sidao really wanted to get the Raxes, but eventually paiN got pushed out so far that there was backdoor protection. But still, another couple of good pushes, and they could start getting Fnatic towers down. If you're Fnatic, you don't feel good about being behind in this situation. It's sort of an all-in push comp.
Yeah. So in that last fight, you were thinking that a Cinderin swap was a really, really good way to put Windrun out of position, but I felt she was so survivable with that Windrun and with her full HP and mech that really didn't make that much of an impact. Do you feel that was the right course of action to throw Vengeful Spirit right into the enemy's claws, or do you feel it was a bit of an oversight?
No, I think your analysis is actually correct. It was a good swap in terms of getting Windrunner out of position, but the fact that it didn't actually kill the Windrunner, if you're going to swap somebody, you better make sure you immediately kill them and the Venge somehow survives, and they didn't do either. The one person who I'd have loved to see a greedy 4-staff first paiN-esque build on is this Vengeful Spirit, because of course 4-staff a fantastic VS item, but unfortunately Cinderin isn't really anywhere near that.
No, yeah, the net worth is just speaking for itself with 13k on the Phantom Lancer. The Windrunner and the Rubik hovering between 6.5 and 8k between the two of themselves, and yeah, in general, they're just coming out too far ahead. Their gold advantage is up to 7,500 now, and they're just finishing off the final outer tier tower. I'm not going to say necessarily this is the beginning of the end, because if anybody can pull it out, a Dragon Knight that hits level 16 certainly can, but he needs to be able to get a well-timed BKB. He still has 9 seconds left on it, so he has to pop that off perfectly in the fight, and also be able to just have his supports back him up, because right now I feel the paiN Gaming supports are doing so much more for the team fight than Fnatic's ever could. The lassos on the 20% HP, Aegis still barely up. Phantom Lancer didn't really add up to much. Compared to that to the Warlock Golem upheavals, the impales, even the amazing shackles coming on out. It just seems like a lot is in store for Fnatic when it comes down to paiN Gaming's 5v5, whereas Fnatic don't really have much to answer back with.
Right, Don't Be Afraid's Windrunner. Uh-oh.
Yeah, actually, in a bad spot. Speaking of getting picked off completely, Mino pops off a Carapace unnecessarily, but does get the Firefly, a little bit of Impale. It sets up Don't Be Afraid. They try to swap him in. They get the Centaur Stomp. They're stunning him up enough. Oh my gosh, they bring him down anyways. It's really, like, it's a 200 range swap, and following that up with a Centaur. Wow, that was something. I thought she was pretty much home free when the Windrun came out, but instead it's enough to really finalize that kill, forcing the buyback, and it looks like a quick disconnect. Meanwhile, we do see Trixie's bear getting lifted up, Grant doing very, very well with making sure that is his focus as a whole. Carapace is going to be up in 7 seconds, but I don't feel paiN really has much to stand on other than to fall back, at least until the Warlock Rock comes down. Pada in a great spot, does drop it, does commit to bringing down on Trixie, but the Hand of God, he's still up and kicking for a long time. Test of Faith sends him back, and now No Tail is really the only one that's in all that much danger. So he is going to get lanced up, slowed down considerably. The Shackle does fly as well. Synderen is going to be the next target choice. No Tail most certainly dead, and with this Dagon, it might be enough to bring down Sind as well. He has Magic Missile, no Carapace available. Synderen gets earned, though, and that's going to seal his fate with a power shot as well to,
Kill steal.
you know.
Pure kill steal power shot. The Urn had it, no problem.
Grint doesn't need that stuff. He does get Hand of God still, though. That's pretty nice.
Oh, nice. Actually, that's pretty significant. And these mana birds just coming out on Era, honestly, they're doing pretty big work. He needs mana. Like,
ooh, they blocked him enough. The Shackle doesn't work out, but the Telekinesis certainly does. And they can slow him down. He has to pop the BKB. And it's only going to be barely enough for him to be able to escape on out of here. It does have a very long duration, so I don't think Mino can do too much. But in the meantime, we do see Trixie actually picking up a kill for himself, looking for more on top of Grant. Brought down the Warlock. The Nyx also drops, and Grant has to pop off his Ghost Scepter just to survive. Oh my gosh, so close to bringing down Grant. But what happened to Nyx in the fountain?
I honestly don't know. I was watching the Trixie situation because that Basher has actually
forced him in.
Trixie very, very dangerous.
Hani got the force off, or no, yeah, VS didn't get the swap. It was Hani's Force Staff that pulled him in just a little too greedy and forced Nyx Assassin down. They got the kill on the Warlock, but it was Trixie that they had to trade for it, and that's not a good trade when you're relying on him so much to be kind of if not the backbone, then at least just like another one of those.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he's all of their damage right now, because Era is just running away from fights rather than into fights, mostly. So, Lone Druid is their damage, and he's good damage. He's got the Armlet and Skull Basher. Armlet quite efficient, of course, especially on the Bear, because you don't get the health drain. And then, the Basher is really good, because if he can lock down these supports like he's been doing, that takes them out of the fight. They all have to concentrate on Trixie, which opens up the room for Fnatic. So I really like how dedicated Trixie was to farming up those 2 items, and honestly, it's what's keeping Fnatic in the game. I just don't know if it's enough to keep them in the game.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. I mean, Grant has been getting good skills off. He's the Hand of God very nicely in that last fight, was able to survive by the skin of his teeth by using his mobility items. The Ghost Scepter to avoid the barrier damage. Actually going in on Synderen. Mino finding a pick, and there's no sentry wards anywhere nearby. That actually includes inventories. They have a gem, and they're relying entirely on Hani to be in the right place at the right time, but in this case, far from it. And they're going to take a kill on Synderen as well as yet another Aegis of the Immortal on Phantom Lancer.
Right. Sind is in the unenviable position of being the gimmick pick in a gimmick team. Like, it's not to say that gimmicks are bad. It's good to have a team with a coordinated plan, but if you picked Venge primarily for her Vengeance Aura and 5-man push, and then you are so inefficient at 5-man pushing that there's still a tier 1 tower up at 30 minutes, being that Venge feels like crap. I've been in that position where, like, you're like, oh, this one hero will work out in this specific situation, and that situation never happens, and you're just like, what do I do?
Yeah, that's an extremely good point. I mean, that's 7 towers for 2. paiN have a 5-tower advantage, and one of them is leaving the racks vulnerable up top. So comparing that and seeing that aggressive push, it just doesn't work out. The Shackle only hits on the Bear. The lasso pulls in Grent. Is he going to be able to survive with his big items? Oh, gets the Force Staff away, gets another Force Staff, but it's too much. Ghost Scepter with the Flame Break will be sealing his fate, pursuing on through. The Rabbit gives the Bear a lot of movement speed, but it's not enough to catch this Windrunner with her CD coming back up. So just trying to demolish on through on this tower. We'll be able to finish it off with a nice little battle cry there.
I wonder why they didn't fortify. It had the backdoor regen. I guess they just felt they couldn't defend it, because Grent does have buyback.
It was going to die one way or another.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Well, I think Fnatic are going to push it. I think they're going to try to go for...
I just say that Synderen gets Test of Face back, and I'm not exactly sure what his intentions are other than to make sure that the top doesn't get too much pressure on it. So it looks like they're just trying to establish a bit more map control.
With level 1 wave, that Venge by herself is not going to counter push that. Okay, they do bring Era.
Well, it's not. It's a standard creep, so it's not the biggest deal in the world. But they do bring Era. You're right. He wants the farm. He'll find it, most definitely. Either way, yeah, not too much counter push to be seen there. Either way, they're making sure that they are in a safer position. Honestly, it might have been because they didn't have that much detection available. The second that Hani left, Vengeful Spirit was in a terrible spot that she could be just picked off solo by the Nyx. I mean, he does have a Dagon. He might be even go for an Ethereal. Who knows? But either way, it's just right now, Vengeful Spirit is sitting at level 10 on only 1k HP is not that much to work with here. So Either way, she's pulled out of position, and now they're just losing a little bit of map control. I was talking about how they taking down that tier 2. They needed to get some wards up, maybe put something in the enemy's jungle. Probably not as deep as the plateau, but definitely something where they have a little bit more understanding. But paiN is beating them to the punch. They're centering all over the place, and the best they can come up with is this observer ward here. It's not bad, but it's not doing enough to prevent Sidao from controlling the map, controlling the farm, and now as a result he has the butterfly and the heart, as well as an Aegis that they have to chew on through. Now he does have... Sorry, go.
No. We're gonna have a fight, so.
Era gonna get picked off here. A lot of damage coming on out, but the Shackle only hits onto the Hellbear. He gets Tetsuface back just to make sure, but he's gonna have to TP on forward. Already losing the Bat Rider. This is really bad for their fight. Terrible wave to start off, and paiN still has every cooldown in the book available here. No spell steal just yet, waiting for an opportunity. Shackle does fly onto Trixie, and those illusions from the Phantom Lance are just doing a lot. Trixie will have to fall back as well. Grant picks up a Penitence of all things, unfortunately, but there is an Entangle on Sidao. This is what they want to try to bring him down quickly, but the Warlock Golem says otherwise. Big stun piercing on through BKB. The mechanism comes out, and they are still standing fine. Trixie now going to get slowed down. The last Diffusal Blade charge used to finish him off and turn things around. Nice double stun on Era, bringing down both him and Cinderin. This is big. Oh my gosh, this might be it. I mean, they can take mid racks and top. Top are vulnerable. No tail calls. GG. They committed everything to this, and they just couldn't hold against paiN's 5v5.
They did. I don't like the Javelin buy from DK just before that fight. He needed to have buyback up. They didn't have any buybacks in the end, and so they just end up getting taken down. paiN, honestly, what a well-coordinated game from them. Even with a sort of overall laning strategy that neither you nor I thought was actually the best, their execution was actually really good. And I like that the Nyx actually, even though he got Dagon, he left it on 1 this time, and he picked up that Ghost Scepter. Critical Ghost Scepter pickups, absolutely really important to make sure that Nyx and Rubik weren't in trouble from the Lone Druid. It's, again, you have to triage whenever you're buying items, especially on a support. Figure out what your biggest threat or issue is, and just spend your little gold on handling that issue. And in this case, it was Trixie's Bear. So how do you handle Bear? I mean, you basically have to go Scepter. And so smart pickups both for Grint and for Minnow to actually keep them alive in those fights. But just in general, I don't know, Blaze, this is just really good play from paiN from both of these games, honestly.
Yeah, both of them. It seemed like a little bit more than they could handle in the game 1 because of the hero pick they were going up against, but their play was still very solid, and now they had that late game advantage. They had that Phantom Lancer, and it's not an insta-win, but it's something that if you can reinforce nicely with this kind of a team fight, there's very little Fnatic could do to contest. They needed that Dragon Knight to hit level 16, and he ends the game at 15.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that it wasn't even in their initial plan. Sure, the DK is kind of a PL counter when he gets that level 16, but Fnatic were never planning for this to reach
One
level
thing
16.
is, they snapped that pickup immediately after the Warlock came out, without any hesitation at all. So if it wasn't in the first 3 picks moving towards it, they definitely had it when they started their bans, because they wanted to make sure that they were still dealing with him in some fashion. And if you're going to go armlet on the Bear and not a Maelstrom, then you're going to rely on DK to be the one that goes toe-to-toe with PL.
Yes, I agree with you. I'm just saying that I think that Fnatic's plan was always, we'll push the game way before the PL becomes an issue.
Okay.
We won't draft an explicit PL counter. Dragon Knight is kind of a soft PL counter. I mean, the problem is Diffusal will actually choose through Dragon Knight because he can't stun, which is really important for him, and he doesn't have the Dragon Breath, which is less important. But basically, Fnatic's strategy was we'll win way before that because we'll go hard in the paint on the Vengeance aura for Vengeful Spirit, and we'll just push with the pseudo Night Strat plus Bear. And it worked for 10 to 15 minutes at most. And then just the fact that they had done really nothing about the PL. I mean, we're talking about a PL that ends up 13-0-9. There wasn't even a point at which the PL might have died. Okay, there was a Bat Rider gank top, which he dodged by doppel walking into the trees.
Yeah.
But the fact that they didn't deal with the PL actually meant that paiN managed to withstand the push, even without much in the way of explicit counter push. Which, all credit to paiN. I didn't think they could do it. I didn't think they had much good counter push at all. But they completely stopped the pseudo Night Strat and from pushing and just turned it right around on Fnatic.
Yeah. I'm almost curious to see if we're going to see a Phantom Lancer ban out from one of the 2 teams, just to say, screw it, we don't want, we're not having the best day as far as shutting down PL or putting enough focus on him, so just screw it, take him off the board, and proceed on with the rest of the draft. But I gotta say, you were saying that they didn't have much counter push, and I completely agree with you. How do you think they were able to really make sure that this huge pressure from Vengeful, Chen, so on and so forth, how did they hold on to their towers like they did? What do you think was the key, most important aspect of that?
So I think at first Fnatic were getting it pretty well done, and so paiN realized I think that they couldn't just let themselves be whittled away. When you have good turtle heroes, like you have Keeper of the Light, you have your Dark Seers of the world, stuff like that. Not that Windrunner, Power Shot plus Rubik Lightning Bolt or Fade Bolt or whatever is bad, but it's nowhere near the amount of turtling that you can do with like a Tinker or a Keeper of the Light. paiN realized this, and they were like, okay, we can't just sort of pound for pound anti-push. Like, we can't push out these creep waves or this Chen wave. What we'll do instead is get to the point at which we can win one big team fight, and then we'll never let them push ever again. And that's exactly what happened. Fnatic got 3 towers. They got the tier 1 bottom trivially easily. Like, we were just, you and I were just agog at how little paiN could do about it.
Yeah.
They got the tier 2 trivially easily. And they got the tier 1 mid. And that's the point at which paiN were like, okay, our Warlock is very close to 6. Our PL has his really fast diffusal, which is going to be huge in this game, and we have enough levels on Windrunner that she can land long-duration shackles. And that's the point at which they flipped it over, and that we saw 8-2 in favor of paiN. From that moment onwards, there was never a point at which Fnatic were on the offensive. They never were actually attacking paiN.
Yeah.
And it's only that, I think, that actually stopped the push strat. The fact that Fnatic from that point had to play defense, which is not what their team was engineered to do.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that sentiment. That tier 2 fight that just turned things around and they just kept on cleaning things up nicely. I think that was the turning point of the game where paiN kind of jumped on into the driver's seat, just pushed them on over, and yeah, they took controls. They took the reins, and that was really, really good to see from them. Now we're going to see what they have to bring to the table in Game 3. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for Game 2 of Fnatic versus paiN. Now, in just a couple of seconds, we'll be jumping on into the lobby to start up Game 3. But real quick, thank you guys for tuning in. This is Premier League. I'm Blaze, and this is Vikramon. Do you want to plug your stream or anything, or?
No, let's just go to Game 3. We'll talk about it later.
Too excited. Too much action for these two teams, and I wholeheartedly agree.